Light the beam, everybody. It's time for Nerdy for 30, the podcast where we talk about nerdy-ish movies for 30-ish minutes. My name is Kevin Bauer, a.k.a. the Critic's Choice. With me, as always, my faithful co-host, the People's Champ. We are coming to you with a little bit of a throwback movie. So, as you may know, we were supposed to be covering the Meg 2, The Trench. We could not do that because I got COVID. So we are here instead with a COVID-era classic that neither one of us feels got its full due. We are, of course, talking about The Mitchells versus the Machines. Tim, you love this movie.
I love it. It's great. I think anytime we talk an animated movie on here, we reference Mitchells versus the Machines. So
we do.
It all kind of worked out that this is what we're doing. I'll tell you what, I saw Meg 2. I saw it in Screen X. It was wild, man. I had a great time.
Save it, Tim. Don't you dare.
We're going to have to talk about it at some point because it's a good time, man. And I got to tell you, mentally transitioning from Meg 2 to Mitchells vs. the Machines was a little rough at first. But after the first 15 minutes, I was like, nah, I'm back in it. Mitchells rules. You know,
I appreciate you walking our audience through the whiplash that they're all experiencing right now.
Yeah. I know you were expecting Meg 2. You get Mitchells vs. the Machines. Just chill, relax, invite the family in to the living room, turn on Mitchells vs. the Machines, and just have a nice, pleasant 2 hours of your life. It's great, Kevin. The animation in this, I think, is so good. It's crazy. We got to get into how many levels they're working on there. And the voice acting's great. The story's great. It's amazing. It's so good, right? Is this one of your favorites? Where do you rank this in your animation faves?
Oh, this is toward the top for sure. This movie has such a wonderful sense of humor. And I mean, that's a direct line to both of our hearts. Like you said, the animation itself is stellar. This is Sony Pictures Animation, the same folks behind the Spider-Verse movies. They actually, I was reading up on this a little bit, they used a lot of the same technology they used to do the artwork in Spider-Verse in this movie as well, except instead of trying to give it that comic book feel, they were going for more of a watercolor illustrated feel. And it really shows. It's so unique. You can tell that they put as much care into this as they put into Spider-Verse, and yet it looks so visually distinct. And it kind of feels like a halfway point between the Spider-Verse movies and the Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that we just watched. Because in Ninja Turtles, the character designs themselves are totally fucked. Everybody looks like they're made out of a bag of trash. Kind of looks like they just threw clay around and then willy-nilly picked where the eyes and the mouth go. And this movie isn't quite that absurd, but there's still a lot of really interesting character shapes going on here. But to answer the question that you actually asked me, yeah, I like this movie a lot.
Visually, I find this animation, I think it's working on two levels, right? There's the base reality in this world that is some pretty great I don't want to say basic, but there is their base reality, which is the way the characters look and they interact with the world and all of that. And then on top of that, we're seeing the animation of the cartoons and the videos and all the stuff that the lead is that Katie is putting on everything. And we see it in her movies, and then we see it in her life when something happens that she is, I guess, exaggerating or feeling some way about. You can read her emotions like you would with Gwen Stacy in her world, right? Where the colors change and all of that. You see it. I mean, it's what Miss Marvel tried to do, right? For 2 minutes and then just gave up because they were too lazy. Because those lazy fucks at Disney don't give a shit about anything.
I would say they successfully did it for those 2 minutes. They just stopped doing it after those 2 minutes.
They just gave up. They were like, this is hard work. But this is the detail, and this is so good. There's so many little jokes hidden around. It's great. Man, I love it. But I think as far as approachability, it took me a minute to get used to Spider-Verse. It took me a minute to get used to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think whatever that base reality animation style is, I gravitated more towards that personally. Right away, I was like, okay, I like this. It just seems more solid. It's somehow more basic, even though all the shapes are weird. And I just find this a visually an incredibly comforting movie.
Yeah, right there with you. They completely knocked it out of the park. The team behind this movie is also very interesting. I looked it up. It looks like a lot of former Gravity Falls people, which also totally checks out. If you've ever watched Gravity Falls, incredibly deep show it's of that ilk of the like early to mid 2010s, where it's a ton of kids shows that just have a lot more depth and like a wild depth of lore that you wouldn't expect from kid shows that we certainly didn't have in kid shows when we were growing up. And also just a incredible sense of humor on that show. So it's cool to see that bleed over into this. And then one of the guys that worked on this movie was Jeff Rowe, who then went on to direct Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. So there is like a clear through line behind all these projects, like Spider-Verse and Gravity Falls bleed into this, but then bleed into Ninja Turtles. And
they're all Sony, right?
Ninja Turtles is Nickelodeon Pictures, actually.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, the movies that they did immediately prior to the Ninja Turtles movie were the really strange SpongeBob movies that have been dropping over the past couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, those visually look crazy to me. I don't know. I just never got into SpongeBob for whatever reason. Just out on SpongeBob.
We can unpack that later. That's
nothing he did. I don't know. Whatever it didn't grab me as a kid. You know what did grab me in this? A trope that I hate so much, Kevin, and I know I've complained about it on this podcast before, is like bratty kid who's rebelling against the parents who clearly love them. And it's the whole time I'm just thinking, this kid is stupid. This is a dumb child, and they just don't understand the way the world works, right? And this is kind of set up to be that same story, but writing wise, I empathize with both characters to an extent that is so wonderful. I totally get where the dad's coming from. I mean, the driving force in this is the relationship between the father and the daughter. And I totally relate to and understand both of their points of view. And it's great. It's just so refreshing. It just feels like this was done right, because usually it's one of them is wrong. I feel like in a lot of these movies that I'm not crazy about, a lot of times you see this, one of the characters is wrong. And I think both of them are kind of right in this, and they're both wrong in the same way, and they both need to compromise. And like the love is there. There's no doubt that they love each other, but they can't communicate. They like just don't fit together. And trying to overcome that is great. I mean, I don't know. But what do you think, Kevin? Is this a good family coming of age story? How does it stack up with others?
Oh yeah, this is wonderful. We talked a lot last week too about the Goofy movie and how Max and Goofy in that movie are at odds, and just how heart-wrenching a lot of those scenes are. And this movie has a similar emotional depth to it, where when the characters are each other's antagonist, they aren't doing anything to necessarily actively hurt that person. The worst that they're ever really doing is assuming that the other person can't possibly change and can't possibly empathize with what they want, which has been proven in the past. They have each shown each other an inability to connect with each other. So it makes sense that they would jump to those leaps in logic. Man, another one, again, to keep throwing back to other ones, this is a real like outside referencey episode. In our Ninja Turtles discussion, I won't ruin everything, but we talked about a moment in Ninja Turtles movie where they seemingly refused to get deep and emotional. And there were a couple moments in this that really, really bothered me to watch. The one that really stood out is the one where Katie makes her dad think that she is agreeing with his plan, and then sidebars with her little brother. And he's like, "Hey, it's great to see you finally getting together." And she's like, "Oh, that I was lying." And the little brother's not fully on board. He feels kind of icky about it. And they do their special little high five, but you can tell he's not into it. And again, it makes total sense that she would do what she did. Her want is understandable. But still, here she is, like stepping into the antagonist role by doing something that is just, I guess, selfish.
I agree. The other one, I mean, the road trip idea in itself is such a perfect reflection of their relationship, which is the daughter is leaving. The father wants he wants to bond with her. He's not capable of talking to her, so he treats her the way that he would want to be treated because he doesn't understand how she wants to be treated. And so he cancels her flight. You know, she already has friends. She's got a girlfriend waiting for her. She's trying to get to college and you know, chow down on some strange new ladies. And her dad is just
fucking Christ.
And her dad is just cock blocking her left and right. Like she's trying to get it on. She's missing mixers. And dad's like, let's go on a road trip. And I totally understand both of their points of view. The dad is like, this is our last chance. And the daughter is like, I want to leave. The road trip felt so violating. Him canceling that and being like family road trip. Oh my God. That seems like such an awful parent move. And yet I get it from the dad's point of view. And you feel bad for both of them.
Dude, is this the best leaving for college movie that you've ever seen? How would you react in that same situation if you had gotten ready to go to Florida State and...
Oh, no, it was University of Florida, motherfucker.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Not Florida
I'm so
State.
Sorry.
Go Gators.
I'm so sorry.
I bleed orange and blue till I die.
Is Florida State the Seminoles?
Yes, it's the Seminoles.
I knew you were a Gator. I didn't know. I thought you were a fellow state school kid. I'm sorry.
No.
I was projecting.
No, I'm the state school, the University of Florida.
Good Lord.
Yeah, any school that throws state at the end is like, we're second best. That's what I hear.
What are you talking about?
You know, the good schools don't need it. They don't need to, like, you know, the University of Georgia. They're not like University of Georgia State. You know, it's just like weak, you know, like how the University of Ohio is so much better than Ohio State.
First off, they don't even say University of Ohio. It's OU. And
I've never even heard of them, honestly. Ohio State's the only example I can think of where the state is better than the. Yeah, I don't know. Name another one. There's none. Whatever. We don't need to talk about colleges, but going to college, I would feel violated. I would feel incredibly violated if this thing that I'd been planning on and excited about was taken from me. I would be livid, absolutely livid. And also, as a parent, I totally empathize with wanting to get and not wanting to leave on a bad note and trying to reach out and just not getting it. You know, they're both from just two different worlds. You know, it's like it's a square peg and a round peg. They're not going to fit in the same holes. They're just banging against the walls, trying to get through, and they can't. But you respect them both for trying. It's so silly.
Dude, it hurts me in this movie, the moments when each is trying to share something with the other, and we see the other one brush it off. Not even in a mean way, just in an extremely realistic way. And the way that all of us have done to family members and loved ones our entire lives. And we just take it for granted. And when you see the person who did the denying, just oblivious, still doing the activity that they were doing previously, and you see the person that wanted to come up and show them something shrink away. Oh, it just absolutely haunts me, Tim.
I mean, the song in this, I think, is a good example of that because it's like that Live Your Life song. Mm-hmm. And I realized in this that they play it like I guess they play it 4 times, but it is like the rule of 3s where they play it once in the video when she's a kid. And then in the car, the father's like, this is really good. He's like, he looks to his wife like, this is it. This is what I've been building towards. He puts in the album, and the, you know, teenager who is now an 18-year-old adult, doesn't want to sing a song that she sang in a talent show when she was 2, you know, which I think is very relatable. You know, she probably doesn't even remember that song, you know, or at least if she's 2 years old, she doesn't remember the connection and she doesn't understand the importance that it has to her dad necessarily. So she's like, oh, that's weird. And he's like, okay, no, we don't have to do it. And she's like, no, we can do it. And now it's like, that moment is just so excruciating. And again, get both sides. Incredibly relatable. And then at the end, honestly, when they play it at the end, it gets me a little bit. And the whole family's there. And Linda's just gotten done like murdering a bunch of robots. By the way, the fight scenes with Linda are incredible. It's so good. The fight scenes at the end are wild. I don't know how they make them so gruesome. Like she rips a heart out of a machine and then she gets oil on her face, like blood splatter. And
just wipes it off with one thumb slowly.
It's crazy. And like they have an awesome scene where they're like hunkering down at the beginning at that like car at that dinosaur place, and it blows up, and it looks, they treat it like it would be like, they treat it like when Thanos blew up the Avengers compound in Endgame, and they're all getting blown back, and Ant-Man's like, boom, like shrinks. Like that's how they're treating it. Like a slow-mo falling away, glass flying by them. Like the family should be dead at that point. They keep, the violence is so good that they should all have died from it, but then they just get up and there's no scratches or anything. And it's like, no, this is a PG movie. Like we're cool with this. We're just going to keep on trucking.
Oh my God, dude, but the caliber of that action. The Furby scene is my favorite scene in this movie.
It's so good.
The giant Furby, the way, like everything is funny building up to it. And then they managed to do that thing that you see in One Punch Man also, where the action that you're seeing is a perfect parody of like anime fight scenes, but in and of itself is also an incredible anime fight scene. They don't just understand what it is and how it works to the extent that they can parody it. They understand how it is and how it works so that they can make a very good version of it. Those like beams of energy that it's firing off and just carving through this mall. It's amazing. It adds an entire extra gear to that scene. I mean, I'm over the moon for all the Furby stuff in this movie.
It's insane escalation too, because not only is it a giant Furby, it somehow has the power to shoot a beam of pure energy that slices through floors in this mall. It makes no sense. No sense at all. And gosh, it's so good. And even then, the dad is like leaping on the opportunity to like, oh, you can do something with the fishing pole. You can do this, like I love those moments too, where they're trying to like teach each other. They're taking every opportunity to bond, regardless of whether or not the world is ending there.
Yeah. This feels like a good rule that we can apply to stuff going forward, where they made it look cool. All these different scenes. The scene you described where they're riding on the robots and they're singing Live Your Life and the family's all together. It works still if it looks half as cool, but they went way above and beyond to make it look beautiful. Fucking cool. When she's catching drones with a fishing rod in the mall, it looks fucking cool as hell. Like they used every single opportunity to make every single scene that was action based in this movie look phenomenal.
I think it looks incredible the whole time. And even at the end, when they're playing the song for like the third time and they're bringing it up and they're flying above the clouds, like the sky, and they're doing all these slow motion combat moves. It looks visually, I think it looks gorgeous the whole time. The colors are so bright and vibrant, and it feels alive, and it's mixing in her fun animation worldview, and it's just so good. It's so cool. And then meanwhile, they're fleshing out. I think every other character has an arc in it. I think the mom is super fun. The kid's great. There's a great joke in it with the mom where she's attacked by a massage chair. And then she's like fights it, and then she gets comfy, and then her daughter tries to get her out of it, and she goes, no. And then the daughter pulls her out. And I'm like, that stuff's happening constantly. This movie is so fast and it's so dense with jokes, and it feels like there's constantly a joke going on. And then at the end, they pay them all off. They pay the song off. They make every dinosaur joke. At the very end of the movie, they have a little dinosaur eraser on the top of the antenna of the car as it's driving away, like the dinosaur eraser that the neighbor girl offered the kid in that dinosaur thing. That was like their first interaction. And it's like, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
It's like, they don't point. I mean, but it's great detail. It's awesome that it's there,
It's crazy detailed. The socks that Katie's wearing this entire movie are the carpet pattern from the movie The Shining, which are real socks.
Really?
And yeah, they're real film nerd socks. She's wearing these Shining socks the whole time.
Dude, that's awesome.
The other one that I noticed is that scene, they make the reference early in the movie they show the dad and he does this kind of weird like hollering thing, and it compares it to that old YouTube video of a spider monkey or the howler monkey. And we get the cut back and forth. It's very funny. They reference that same moment a couple more times in the movie, including with the Olivia Colman character, which I want to talk about Olivia Colman in this too. But there's, in addition to all of that, a scene where they just get out of the car and they're about ready to start their big plan. And they do a Batman 1960s Batman TV show reference where it's what they used to do with the bat signal, and the bat signal would zoom at the screen and zoom back away and it would go diddly diddly diddly, except it's his face frozen from the howler monkey moment. They're memeing themselves from earlier in the movie. Like, I mean, I've never seen anybody do this to this extent before.
It's great because they established that's like the comedy and sense of humor of Katie, of the main character.
Yeah.
And then that is the humor that is reflected in the whole show. So it doesn't seem like it's being told from Katie's point of view, but it really is. We're seeing it through her eyes for the most part. We're seeing all of her animation, all of her doodles, her takes on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow we're also viewing it from the dad's view. And when the dad's the focus of stuff, there isn't really any animation going on. It's much more somber. It's like, it's kind of just sticking with like the base reality because that's who he is. And then at the end, I think she's looking at him and there's like more cartoons floating around his head and stuff. But yeah, it's great. I mean, gosh, just the humor and the tone. And it's just consistent, man. It's just consistent the whole way through. I mean, this is as good as anything.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Now, this came out in 2021. I remember this being a seminal piece of COVID era entertainment. This was one of those things that came out to streaming that felt like a life raft in the middle of everything else that people decided to dump on audiences during the pandemic. I feel like it was this and renting the movie Love and Monsters. Those were like the two highlights for me of the pandemic. Did you watch this with Pat? Did you watch this with Colby and Hallie? Did you watch this with your family? In what context did you end up watching this one?
That's a good question. I have watched it. This might have been the third or fourth time I've watched it, honestly. I don't know who I was watching it with or what I was doing. I think you might have just recommended this to me, which is how I found out about it. I don't remember being hyped about it. I don't remember like anything, just kind of, I think I had to like search it. Like even today, you start typing Mitchell's and it's like the last thing that comes up. Like they buried this thing, which is crazy because it's like the best thing Netflix has done. Like, is this a Netflix movie?
Yeah, it's a Netflix original.
It's maybe the best Netflix original they've done. I mean, that's not even saying that much. Like
No.
What's the competition for Netflix original movie? You know,
I can't even
Hair of the Dog or whatever. Like I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know. So this is great. I mean, it's awesome. I don't really remember the context for watching it. Olivia Colman. So what's your Olivia Colman take?
Just that she elevates every single thing that she touches. It's not a controversial take. It's just an observation about how good she is.
It's another huge beef with Secret Invasion is that you have the gall to ask Olivia Colman to be in your piece of shit film. And you waste her talent like that. Like you just spit in her face. Like she's awesome. Olivia Colman is greatness personified, a queen of all queens. And it's nice to see her treated well in this. It's nice to see them respect. And the cast is stacked. They have a lot of people in it. Blake Griffin's in it somehow. Abby, what's her face? Abby Jacobson is great. I mean, everybody's good. Beck Bennett's in it. Fred Armisen.
Danny McBride doing it.
Is great.
He's really like, shout out to Danny McBride. He's really doing a different character in this. This is very different from Kenny Powers. This is very different from the dude in Tropic Thunder. Like,
yeah, he really tapped into his Ron Swanson energy. And just brought it. And I loved it. You got any? Want to do some beefs and thieves? You got any beefs for this thing?
Do some beefs and thieves.
I had one I was thinking of, a beef right off the top from ending this thing.
Hit me.
Very dumb. I don't think I have any big beefs, but at the end of the movie, they're all trapped in these giant tubes Like all the people are trapped in these are like blue hexagons. I don't know. I'm doing something with my hands now after watching on YouTube. And they're all connected and they all stack into this giant pyramid. And at the end, the pyramid falls over. All of the cubes open up. And this pyramid is gigantic, like multiple skyscrapers high. And the doors just open up. And my first thought was, how are these people getting down? this is days of effort. Like we don't have the technology to get these people down from these like outer space reaching pyramids. There's no stairs. There's no nothing. They just floated up there. How do these people? And they just like cut to the next thing. And Chrissy Teigen's there telling her she's going to follow her on Instagram or whatever. But I was like, I want to see some part of me just wants to see like a stinger or something where they have multiple cranes trying to get people out, and it just takes weeks. And people are people died when that thing opened, right? People definitely did. Imagine being like 5 miles in the air, and they just open. You have a tiny little 6x6 space. Then they just open one side of it, and the wind's whipping. You're freezing. You've got no food because they're not feeding you in this thing. And how long do the Mitchells take? A couple days. Like people died. Either. People died when those doors opened. What if they were leaning against them when it happened?
Oh my God.
They're dead,
Tim. I feel like at a certain height, the air pressure's high enough, right? Where if the door opened up, they would just be forcibly sucked out of the hexagon they were in.
Yeah. How does that work? That's an airplane thing. What I don't know how that works, but yeah, you'd think something would get sucked out or whatever. And I think countless lives were lost that day, and I don't think the film respects that enough.
Yeah,
the massive death toll that took place during this movie.
Yeah, that's the thing. They said that they were going to Washington D.C. in the end to get a Medal of Honor. Really, they're getting handcuffs slapped on. A federal indictment. They're in for a long hearing.
Oh my God, there's going to be some crying widow who walks up to them and slaps them and tells them that their boy was in the in the glass. Why didn't you close the beaches when you could?
There's a line of widows stretching to the coast. Just widow after widow coming up, slapping each Mitchell on the face, slapping the dog.
For my boy, but they're heroes,
Right. And then for every widow, there's also someone directly behind the widow reaffirming that they're heroes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the commander from Top Gun Maverick. It's John Hamm from Top Gun Maverick. And he just keeps going, God damn it, Mitchells.
I was also thinking, it's cute that she ends up with Jade, or at least in this thing at the end of the movie, she's Jade, but she just saved the world. She's going to have women throwing themselves at her just to get a piece of that hero action. I think just settling down with Jade, right? She should be spreading her wings and flying around campus a little bit. She should have her fun before she just settles into normacy with Jade, who seems great, but Jade's wife material,
Hard disagree, Tim. Jade was there for her before, and she's never going to be able to trust whether or not people are interested in her as a person or whether they're interested in her as the person that saved 7 billion lives and took 1 billion.
But she's both of those people. So I think she should be capitalizing on it. I'm just talking raw physical connection and then going before you settle down with Jade. Just now's your time to experiment, get out there, feel yourself, feel everyone else, enjoy college. It's what it's there for.
I can't wait for you to give your kid this exact speech someday.
Hey kids, listen, you got to get your freak on while you can.
Oh boy, beefs. I think the only beef I could think of is the fact that at the end of the day, the mom's trigger for that action scene is just that her little boy is threatened. Mm-hmm. And Mama Bear is a pretty reliable old trope for any kind of a mom in a movie. I know if we started putting a list together, we could make a list of movies that just fell back on having Mama Bear be the motivation to have a mom character comedically start kicking ass. That's a little disappointing, especially because of how forward-thinking the rest of the movie is. and how it seems like the rest of the movie really went out of its way to do some new, unique stuff. But the scenes themselves of her kicking ass were the best mom kicking ass scenes that I've ever seen. I just think it still delivers a similar punch if it is maybe tied to her feeling disrespected as a teacher, like people disrespecting what teachers do, or something else that's tied to a different part of her personality beyond just being a mom. It reminded me of the SNL sketch of Mom Got a Robe for Christmas, where it feels like every mom character, that is their gift from the screenwriter, is that they're going to snap as soon as their kid's threatened.
Yeah, I do agree. That did stand out to me. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about it. Like some of the things, and the mom, I don't love the like stars thing she does. She's just putting stickers on everybody. For some reason. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way of like, yeah, it just felt shit. The mom character does feel shallow for certain moments. That is kind of a bummer, but she's also like, what, the fifth lead in this movie? So she simultaneously has more development than a lot of fifth leads in movies. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's something else with the Mama Bear thing. I think the best thing for her is that jealousy of, you know, the John Legend Tegan household and wanting that picture, like wanting that perfect family and kind of embracing the fact that they're not perfect. But really, she just wants to make a loving unit and be able to brag about this thing. I mean, it's ego. It's like a, you know, which I mean, even that's a story that's been talked about, but I thought it was the most relatable part of her arc and her story. But her fighting was
Tegan
awesome.
Legend family, so funny.
It was. Yeah, and they're rolling out in formation, and it's just like, yep, cool. I get it. Yeah, you're on their Instagram, and suddenly all of them are incredibly happy and just look perfect in every single thing. I mean, this movie touches on a lot of stuff, right? The dangers of AI, the ultimate corruption of conglomerates and monopolies in the tech space, and I guess in general, social media and how it's used to like manipulate people. I mean, yeah, the technology gap between generations. There's just so much going on that they somehow all work into this movie, and I like it. You know, I don't think it's ham-fisted. I don't think it's like any of it shoved down your throat. You know, it's not Barbie. It's like there is subtext.
You just had to.
I had to, you know. At no point in this do they sit you down and they're like, you know, I guess there are lines where they just talk about the evils of monoliths and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's just, you feel smart for pointing some of these things out.
Word.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. This movie's great. You should watch it. Watch it with the fam. It's a good time. Enjoy it. This is what a good movie feels like.
This is what a good movie feels like. Check it out if you haven't already. And check out The Meg 2, The Trench, if you haven't already. I know I'm eager to this weekend. I can't wait to see The Meg. We'll be back here next week talking about it here on Nerdy for 30. We will see you then. I'm blaming COVID on this. I forget how to close the show.
Stay nerdy, everybody.
Stay nerdy, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.